Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. My name is Abu Bakar Siddiq bin Abdul Muin from Group 4. Today, I and my group members will present about the hazardous chemicals. The use of the chemicals is seen in many occupations, including health and care for management of chemicals that can cause safety incidents such as spill, splash, and explosion, and also lead to occupational disease, poisoning, and cancers. Hazardous chemical can be defined as a substance or preparation that capable of causing harm either through its physical and chemical properties or its toxicity. It can be any form of dust, gas, liquid, compound, or mixtures, natural or synthetic. 4 regulations pertaining to chemicals under this Act. The first one is Occupational Safety and Health Classification, Packaging and Labeling of Hazardous Chemicals Regulation 1997. Second is Occupational Safety and Health Prohibition of Use Substance Order 1999. The third is Occupational Safety and Health Use and Standard of Exposure of Chemicals Hazardous to Health Regulation 2000. The last one is Occupational Safety and Health Notification of Incident, Dangerous Occurrence, Occupational Poisoning, and Occupational Disease Regulation 2004.
Commonly, workplace chemical hazard. Knowing the physical states of hazardous chemical is an important factor in understanding their health effects, as the physical states determines how it may enter the body. For example, a gas may enter the body by inhalations, whereas liquid may be absorbed by the skin. Some commonly used workplace chemical hazard is acids, caustic substances, cleaning product, and glues, heavy metal, including mercury and paint. First, equipment failure. One of the top causes for chemical accidents in workplace is due to the use of inappropriate equipment, as it leads to equipment malfunctions. Inappropriate equipment includes chemical storage. For example, using non-flammable storage units to store flammable chemical, mishandling of containment barriers or spill gates, malfunctioning valves, the use of pressure relief system in place of fully functioning valves are adequate to relieve the pressure flow, and therefore will result in a chemical accident. And secondly is inadequate safety review analysis. It is essential to continuously carry out risk assessment tests in your facility to ensure you are implementing the best practice to chemical safety management. A key issue in many workplace is the total lack or absence of a solid chemical safety risk assessment process, particularly in large-scale workplace chemical accidents. Investigations afterwards almost always tend to discover flaws in the chemical review and analysis procedure. Failure to regularly assess chemical safety and storage procedure mean that workplaces were more vulnerable to chemical hazard. Next is operator error. Chemical accidents are likely to happen if an uniformed or untrained member of personnel is handling or encounters chemicals in the workplace. This is referred to as an operator error and can lead to a host of chemical safety risk, not only to the operator themselves but to the entire workplace. Operator errors usually occur due to a lack of understanding or training when it comes to safely handling hazardous chemicals. Personnel are not made aware or cautioned in relation to mistakes they have made when handling or storing chemicals. Therefore, they continue to make the same mistakes, often resulting in a chemical accident. This can be easily remedied with a proper safety training, chemical management restrictions such as only allowing authorized personnel to handle chemicals to enter chemical storage area. Lastly, warning: ignore Many large-scale chemical accidents come as a result of ignoring warning signs such as smaller chemical incidents, spills, or injuries. Minor chemical spills are merely cleans up so that operations can continue without search of the spill of leak being fully investigated or remedied, which can lead to an every large-scale chemical spill in the future. Minor chemical combustions are not properly investigated, and therefore root causes such as improper chemical storage are not identified until after a major chemical explosions. These are just some of many examples of how ignored warnings have led to significant chemical incident.
How to control the risk of hazardous chemicals. As outlined above, managing the risk associated with hazardous chemicals is 4 distinct phases. The third phase of this process is to implement control to reduce the risk associated with hazardous chemicals. When you are considering what control to use to reduce the risk associated with hazardous chemicals, you must follow the hierarchy of controls. The hierarchy of control is a system that outlines the chronological order in which you should implement control to reduce chemical hazard. The hierarchy of control ranks the effectiveness of the different methods of controlling risk, from those that provide the highest level of protection and reliability to those that provide the least amount of reliability and protection. Elimination. The risk control measure that has the greatest level of effectiveness is elimination. Before any other control measure is considered, elimination must be applied first. Elimination is the method of totally removing a hazard of hazardous practice from the workplace. Some examples of eliminating the use of hazardous chemical in the workplace include eliminating the use of chemical outside by using fasteners such as screw or nails, eliminating the use of flammable forklift gas by using electric power forklift instead of LPG power forklifts. Substitution. If you can totally eliminate the use of hazardous chemical, you must then try to substitute it. Substitution is when you replace the use of hazardous chemical with another chemical that is less hazardous and present a lower level of risk. Sometimes, substitutions can be hard to achieve because the dangerous properties of hazardous chemicals are often what makes them very effective in manufacturing and chemical process. Isolation. If it's not possible to substitute the use of hazardous chemical with another chemical that is less hazardous, you must then isolate the hazardous chemicals from people and other incompatible substances. This can be done in a number of ways. For example, if one part of manufacturing process involved the use of hazardous chemical, you could build a ventilated enclosure over this part of the manufacturing process. This enclosure would stop the airborne contaminants from this area moving into other areas of the manufacturing facility where people are present. Engineering controls. If isolation cannot be achieved, you can implement a number of engineering controls to reduce the risk associated with hazardous chemicals. Engineering controls are physical in nature and are devices or processes that eliminate exposure to hazardous chemicals. Engineering controls can be used to minimize the generation of hazardous chemicals, suppress or contain chemicals, limit the area of contamination in the event of spills. Administrative controls. If a risk still remains after implementing higher order 2 controls, they must be reduced by implementing administrative controls. Administrative controls are not as effective because they don't control the hazard at its source. Administrative controls rely on human behavior and supervision. Administrative controls are written policies and procedures that outline the best work practice to minimize exposure to hazardous chemicals. These policies can include things such as reducing the number of people exposed to hazardous chemicals, reducing the duration or frequency of exposure to hazardous chemicals, reducing the quantity of hazardous chemicals given site through inventory reduction methods such as just-in-time supply. Last but not least, personal protection equipment (PPE). should not be relied on to control waste. PPE should only be used as a last resort when other more effective control measures have been used and the risk has not been totally eliminated. PPE can also be used as interim protection until higher level controls are fully implemented. PPE is also useful a way to supplement higher level controls when carrying out high risk work such as spray painting and abrasive blasting. Some example of PPE can include chemical resistant glasses, face shield, chemical resistant gloves, and respiratory equipment.
Hi, my name is Dashni Tanabalan. So if you have any hazardous chemical in your workplace, you have to strict health and safety obligations to store this chemical safety. When storing hazardous chemical in your workplace, the following steps are required. First, read the safety data sheets or label carefully and follow any storage recommendations. Second, secure the chemical against unauthorized access. Third, only keep minimal amount of chemical on site. Fourth, do not allow chemicals to be exposed to the sun. Fifth, provide adequate ventilations. Sixth, label shelf and cupboard so that the chemical can be stored in the right place. 7. Use pelt covering where required. 8. Ensure clear segregation schemes are maintained. 9. Keep outside of the container cleans. 10. Do not store above solid to avoid contaminations. 11. Always store corrosive on a spilled trays. 12. Ensure shelves are not overloaded. 13. Never store flammable liquids in refrigerator. 14. Separate incompatible chemicals that could react dangerously. Thank you.